Nigel Farage gave a strong speech that surprised the country with his sharp criticism of Prime Minister Keir Starmer. In a serious and warning tone, the former Brexit Party leader talked about issues that, if not fixed soon, could change the future of the UK. Now people are wondering if the country is ready for what might happen next.
Thank you very much indeed, and I thank the honourable member for Harborough for calling this debate. He must find it excruciatingly embarrassing how badly the previous government dealt with this issue. With my strong connection in Kent and Sussex with the commercial fishing industry, the angling trade and indeed the lifeboats, I started to feel in early 2020 that the odd boat that had crossed, as the honourable member from Dover mentioned, in 2018 and 19, that something big was about to happen, that the gangs had realised that your chances of deportation from this country were very low. And so I went out repeatedly from Dover into the English Channel, filming boats, meeting face-to-face boatfuls of the young men that have been described, in many cases very aggressive young males. But I also got to the bottom of the use of the word escorts. I kept being told that escorts were crossing the channel. I wasn't quite sure what they meant to begin with, but then I understood it was the French Navy. That the French Navy literally escorted boats across the English Channel and handed them over to Border Force or RNLI. So I made a bit of a fuss about the whole thing. I said unless something was done, huge numbers would come. I said there might even be an invasion, a word that got me in very big trouble. But given that we're pushing up towards 140,000 that have come, I don't think I misused the word. The efforts of the last government to deal with this were frankly pretty pitiful, and Rwanda might have worked in theory, but of course in practice it was not going to work. All the while we are subject to that court in Strasbourg, as we saw that evening, and more interestingly, the incorporation of the convention into British law means that actually British judges will always rule in favour of ECHR. So we have to face up to that reality. I also believe what we're facing is a national security emergency. When ISIS boasted in 2015 that they would use the Mediterranean to get their operatives into Europe, perhaps the European Union should have taken them more at their word. And it was interesting to note that Sir Keir Starmer himself used the phrase national security emergency during the general election. So he's going to have to act accordingly. Appointing a new border chief commander, yeah, we may get some better intelligence, fine. But you know, the French already, and we have given them hundreds of millions of pounds, the French do stop a lot of dinghies from crossing. They put knives in the dinghies, but the problem is that the prospective illegal immigrants just hide in the dunes and come back the next day. So that isn't going to work. And smashing the gangs, well, I don't know. And I've been hearing for the last 30 years, we're going to smash the drugs gangs in this country. And yet there's more Class A drugs being taken today than there ever were before. You know, a good operative gang working out of those sand dunes in northern France in a reasonable week of weather can expect to make at least €2 million. The financial rewards are very, very high. So really what this comes down to are two things. Number one is political will. Successive Australian Prime Ministers attempted to deal with the problem. They all failed. They tried offshore processing, etc., until in the end, Tony Abbott just towed the boats back to Indonesia. There was international outrage from the UN, the EU, and indeed from the Foreign Office, of course.
The fact that they were still hulled vessels, and if we attempt to do the same, we're likely to kill people in our waters. Is that what you want to see?
Just a few weeks ago, for the first time, Border Force did an emergency pickup on the other side of the line, and rather than bringing the people back to this country, as previously, you know, Dover Lifeboat had done, Dungeon Lifeboat had done, they actually took them into Calais, all right? So that is the way that we do it. Yes, you're right, these are far flimsier vessels, but the principle that you take people back to from whence they came is the point that I'm trying to make. And we can do this. We can do this under the international law of the sea. We can do this. I would ask, Minister, that given the money we've given to the French, we no longer accept escorts from the French Navy. The day after 12 people died in the Channel, the day after, there was a French naval vessel escorted a dinghy from a couple of hundred yards off Wissant all the way to our 12-mile line. No more French naval escorts, I think, is vital. So we need political will, and the Germans, of course, are now showing it. The Germans will ignore the ECHR. The Germans, by the way, sent a plane back full of young men to Afghanistan the other week. So with political will, with leaving the ECHR, we can solve this. And I just promised the Labour government one thing. This issue caused great pain to the Conservative Party, and it impacted in the general election. This issue of illegal migration and the crime that it leads to, which is a conversation that's barely started in this country, but a conversation that in France and Germany is now very big, will do massive damage to Labour's electoral chances. You're going to have to get tough, and I'm afraid your leader is going to have to rethink his position on the ECHR. Thank you.
So who is crossing the English Channel? Who's actually coming? You see, we obsess with the numbers, and yeah, sure, 973 crossed last Sunday, 370 crossed the day before that, and they're being put up in hotels and private rented accommodation and social housing absolutely everywhere, and people are furious about the sheer numbers coming, furious that now over 1% of the British population that we know of are illegal immigrants. What we never talk about is who is actually coming. Now, I've said many times over the years, they are young males of fighting age coming into our country about whom we know very little. Well, here's a case of someone who we know a lot about. I want you to watch this film and think to yourself, is this the kind of person we want to come and live in our country? Is this the kind of person you would like to move in next to you? The guy's name is Madapasa. He's been living in Stockholm. He clearly wants to be a big star on TikTok, on social media. He wants to become an influencer, and perhaps he thinks his chances are better coming to the United Kingdom and doing it here. Let's start off with a clip of him in Stockholm. So here he is, surrounded by young women, boastful, we would probably think generally making a bit of a fool of himself. As to how old those females are around him, I wouldn't really like to speculate. But before you know it, Madapasa is there with a group of young men, and guess where they are? They are travelling. They are on their way from Stockholm through Northern Europe, and at the minute they're passing through Germany, and you can tell from the noise that's going on, they are in a highly excitable state. No prizes for guessing where they're headed to. So they're camping en route, they've got their fire going, their tent up, they're making a series of exceptionally aggressive images. You might notice on his face a tattoo that looks like a Kalashnikov. I would suggest to you that's a pretty aggressive symbol, not the kind of tattoo that most people get. Now you'll notice that the flag at the top of this social media clip that he's posted has France, where he is now, and there's a Union Jack. That tells you where he wants to get to. So they're in a camp in northern France, partying like crazy, in very high spirits. And basically this is going out on social media. He's telling the world he's about to attempt an illegal crossing of the English Channel, and it's party time, because he knows nothing can happen to him. If he gets to Britain, he won't be deported, and even if he gets stopped in France, he'll try again. I'm not a great linguist, but this is perfectly clear. Madapasa is fleeing to the UK, coming to a home near you very soon. Now, here's Madapasa and the gang. They're on the beaches, they're in the sand dunes in northern France. This one has gone wrong. For the over 500 million quid that we paid the French to stop the boats, they do actually stop some of the boats. And in this particular case, they have been stopped, and he won't be crossing today. And he's not happy about it, because it's a lovely day. Beautiful blue skies, clear seas. I'm sure the white cliffs of Dover would have been standing out looking beautiful. He could almost smell the brand new 4-star hotel room. But today, it wasn't going to happen. Undeterred, he is still just outside Calais somewhere, live streaming last night, showing the camp, getting ready to come. A little bit windy for the next couple of days, but there's going to be a big opening coming on Friday, Saturday and Sunday of this week with very, very calm weather. And finally, here's a clip of him with a mate. That's right, a gun. Not just a gun tattooed onto his face, but an actual gun. Matapasa will, without doubt, be in our country by the weekend. He won't leave. He'll be able to stay here for the rest of his life. That is almost 99% certain. I know that I get condemned. I'll be told that I'm being beastly, I'm being mean, because he's a poor refugee in need. You can see he's none of those things. Actually, he's here for a life to make money. He's here to lord it over us. Folks, these are the sort of people that are crossing the English Channel. This has been allowed by a Conservative government. The Labour Party will do nothing about it. Only Reform is determined to stop this. And we only stop this if we deport those that come here illegally, just like we used to 20 years ago. If you want to stop the boats, stop this rot, then please, you need to put your faith in me and Reform.